this guy right here, the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. Really excited to have this because I used to own one as a child, although at the time I didn't really appreciate it. I only had like 2 games for it. Came with Keep Courage and Alpha Zone, and I had Bonk for it. But I didn't play it much, and I ended up trading it away for a portable TV. Kind of disappointed in myself for that, but I've got the Mini now, and as you can see, it comes with all of these games, and if you've seen some of the reviews already on YouTube, you'll know that it comes with some hidden games as well. Alright, so let's open this up and see what it comes with. Now, while I do recall the original retail packaging on the original TG16 looking like this, I don't know if the overall packaging will be identical. It comes with an instruction manual, which is nice, because nothing seems to come with instructions anymore, although it's probably going to be very basic. I mean, plug it in, hit the power button, right? Yep, nothing fancy, so let's see, what do we have here? Looks like here is the controller, and this should be a pretty faithful replica of the original. In fact, it is. I think this is how it felt. D-pad has a little clicky, sort of the buttons, but they don't feel bad. Nice long USB cable, at least 6 feet, maybe 10 feet. Micro USB to USB for power, more than likely. This does not come with a power brick though, but any 5-volt 2-amp phone charger should work just fine. And then here we have an HDMI cable. I've got like a bajillion of these by now. And of course, the console itself, which really isn't that much smaller than the original from what I remember. And there it is. Even power button has a little HuCard lock, although this does not support HuCards, obviously. USB ports, player 1, player 2. It's got the markings on here for antenna switch, which was RF out, and then channel 3 or 4, channel selector switch, although obviously they're not here. But what is here is that the back is removable, exposing the HDMI out and the micro USB power out, and the cables can be routed through here or here, and with HDMI be routed through here. So that's nice as well. I wonder if I can get this thing hooked up. I just gotta get all my capture stuff set up. So we'll plug this in, turn it on, and see what it does. Alright, let's power it on and see what comes up. Obviously, here's language selection menu: Japanese, English, French, Italian, German, and Spanish. We're going to pick English for obvious reasons. And that takes us into the main menu. And if you notice, it kind of looks similar to the NES and SNES Classic setup, although this emulator was written and developed by M2, which were the same developers behind the Genesis Mini. So it's kind of interesting that they went this route with it. Now, it's possible that Konami said, alright, do what you want with this, whereas Sega might have had more input in theirs. Doesn't matter, in my opinion. It's a good setup, and I like the way it's laid out. Now, if you see, the games look like they're in jewel cases. That's because TurboGrafx 16 games came on what were known as HuCards, which are roughly the size of like a credit card, maybe a little longer, a little thicker, but they were included in jewel cases, though they did have a CD-ROM attachment for the original console that obviously had CDs, and they would come in regular CD jewel cases. Now, I'm not familiar with most of these games. As I mentioned, I only had, or maybe I didn't mention, I don't remember now. All I had with my TG16 was Bonk and Keep Courage and Alpha Zone, which I'm really bummed out that Keep Courage and Alpha Zone isn't here. I don't know why it was excluded. Maybe they couldn't get the licensing rights to it. I'm not sure. But there are games that I recognize, like Adventure Island, Bomberman, R-Type. I'm just not familiar with most of these, like Lords of Thunder. Not sure what that is, although it's a SuperCD game. Dungeon Explorer, no clue. Maybe it's a RPG. Power Golf, wondering if that's just not a golf game. So yeah, so we'll go through all the options and see what's on here, and then what we'll do is try out a couple of games. Okay, so we'll move down here to settings, take a look at what options are available. First one is user manual, scan it, view it online. Next we have your language settings again, display settings for different display modes, 4:3, pixel perfect, widescreen. Looks like there's also a TurboGrafx Express, which was their handheld version of the console. And there's also the classic CRT filter, which makes it look like older televisions. Next we've got different background wallpaper. Kind of like the look of the little laser line one, the grid one, so we'll choose that, because why not? Menu design, this is so you can switch it from the North American console to either the European or Japanese one. And I'll show you that in a little bit. So as you can see here, select console. Shuts the console off, turns it back on, and now this is the PC Engine, which was Japan's version of the TurboGrafx 16. Apparently there are some differences in some of the games between the Japanese and the US release. I'm not quite sure of them, and I also believe that there were a slightly different game selection for the Japanese version of the Mini than the North American one, and it's kind of cool that they give you access to it. And I also mentioned earlier that you can change between the PC Engine and the Core Graphics Engine, or, well, I guess the look. All it really does is change the look of the colors and the theme a little bit. But it's kind of neat, you know, that you could sit there and experience all three releases of this just from one console, because they did release the Mini in Europe as well. And so let's take a look and we'll see if we can't start one of these games up. I'm just going to go through and find one that I'm probably more familiar with. Let's go with R-Type. Not exactly great with shmups, which is short for shoot 'em ups, but I'm familiar enough with the game that I can probably at least demo it out a little bit. Well, it's interesting it's got credit 03. Is this the arcade version? Well, anyway, here's R-Type. If you're not familiar with it, it's very similar to other shoot 'em ups. Very, very similar to the Gradius series, which was made by Konami, so it's kind of interesting that they now technically own this IP as well, I believe. And as you can see, I'm not very good at it either. I'm going to test out the turbo function on the controller as well, instead of just mashing buttons all the time. And I didn't capture any live footage of me playing as in a camera of me playing on screen. This is all just direct capture from my HDMI capture device. So that's why you're not hearing actually any button mashing going on. But having turbo mode does help a little bit, but as you can see, I'm really bad at this game. And so let's see if I can back out into the menu. I think if you push the two buttons, the actual buttons 1 and 2, and then run and select, you can get that menu to save. I have to look up and see what the actual menu combination is, or button combination is, to get back into the menu. But let's go back to the list and find another game that maybe I can try out. Let's see, what do I want to do? I will do Victory Run. Nice little simple racing game, right? Can't screw this one up. Never play again. I tell you right now, I haven't played any of these games other than Bonk, and they don't have the other game that I played, Keith Courage and Alpha Zone. So, but this looks like just your standard arcade-style racer from that time period. Basic 16-bit graphics, 16-bit sound. Now, it should be noted that even though it was called the TurboGrafx 16 here, it wasn't a true 16-bit console. It was an 8-bit console that had 16-bit graphics, 16-bit sound. So I think that's kind of how they got away with it. One of these days I'll do an actual video on the TurboGrafx 16, PC Engine, Core FX, and we'll go into more of its history. But, you know, I kind of was surprised when I learned that little tidbit. Now I did mention that there were some hidden games on here as well, and you would access them by selecting certain games in the list and then holding select when you press run, and that should access the hidden game. And I'll include a list below in the description of the hidden games. Actually, I'll include a link to a list of them, as well as links to other resources. So let's go ahead and pick one more game to try out, just to put it through its paces. Let's see, what do we want to do here? Probably Space Harrier. Another game that I'm familiar with the overall concept. It's another shoot 'em up, but this one is a little bit different in terms of its style. This one, you know, it's basically behind a view style instead of it being from bottom to top or left to right. This game was originally released by Sega, and I believe Hudson Soft licensed it for the PC Engine. Now you can also sort them by release date or A through Z, which is kind of nice, help you find the games, go through the games list a little easier. Although the Lords of Thunder is definitely not after Y or before A, so I'm not sure what happened there. But everything else apparently is in alphabetical order. But let's try this game out, because it is a CD-based game. And this, I believe, is another shoot 'em up, although I have absolutely no idea how it works or anything. From what I remember seeing about it, it's got like some intros. I'll play a little bit of them, but I'm going to skip through just so I can see what the gameplay is like. I don't want to sit there and waste everyone's time with just going through everything, but I also don't want to just rush through this review either. Apparently you pick a starting zone, and then there's also your armor, and you can purchase some upgrades, I guess. Be similar to your R-Type and your Gradius, where you can acquire upgrades, although in this case you buy them as opposed to just using energy you collect throughout the game itself. But as you can see, it's another shoot 'em up. Different style in that you're I'm guessing a Gundam style suit, and you're floating through the air. I don't know. Now, I do believe if you just leave it on the screen, and in fact, it does do this, there is an attract mode, basically like a demo mode, where it will randomly pick a game, fire it up, and show some of the gameplay. So that's kind of a neat feature. The NES Classics did that, and I think the Genesis Mini did as well. So that's basically it. That's the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. You can pick this up at Amazon. I pre-ordered this back in September of last year, and it was supposed to be out in January, but due to the global situation going on, it got delayed. Although surprisingly, Amazon Japan had the TG16 Mini available for purchase around the same time that the PC Engine Mini came out, so I don't know why we couldn't get them sooner, but I guess it's not that big of a deal in the long run. You'll eventually get it if you pre-ordered it, so just be patient. And if you didn't pre-order it, I think you can still pick them up on Amazon, but I'm not 100% certain. You may want to check. If you can't find them on Amazon US or Canada, Amazon Japan should still have some, but you're going to pay a little bit more for it due to overseas shipping. So just a heads up. And well, that's my review of the TG16 Mini. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down, but please leave a comment below as to why, so I can use that to make improvements for future videos. Otherwise, thanks all, and I'll catch you later.